Grow 'em Big with Steve Bartilla. Brought to you by Huntworth and these other fine sponsors.
So I'm out here in our persimmon orchard, and we have a very specific goal in mind. We're trying to make this as vegetative as possible, but everyone's going to have their own goals when planting at a planting site. So there's a few different types of fruit that you can plant on your property. One being improved fruit varieties, and these are going to be grafted varieties that are essentially clones, and those are best for human consumption. Those improved varieties work really well for remote planting and for wildlife, but you can also take the route of going into more native and wildlife varieties as well. So non-grafted or seedling varieties of different trees. One would be Native American persimmon. Another would be crab apples, southern crab apple. Some of these varieties are going to be a little bit more hardy. They might do better at a remote planting site where you're not going to be able to get to them and maintain them. Maybe they aren't going to get as much water as frequently. So if you're planting specifically for wildlife, you might look into a little bit more of a hardy native variety instead of a improved variety. Another thing to think about with these goals is we like to think about providing fruit for as much of the year as possible. And so what this means is that you can take the strategy of planting different tree types all in one planting site. You can get fruit starting in Florida, where we are. You can get mulberry as early as March and April. And in the north, it comes on a little bit later. And then you can have peaches come on in May and plums. And then we start to get apples. All throughout the summer, we can have berries, and grapes start to come on in early fall. And then later we start to have persimmons and pear. And then the hard mass comes on like chestnut and oaks. So effectively, we have almost 9 months of the year where we're able to harvest. For wildlife, this is an incredibly valuable food source. And so reintroducing these native fruits and also non-native fruits can give a lot to a local habitat, and it can increase the carrying capacity, which means that the more food that's available, the more wildlife are going to be able to prosper and eat throughout the year. It creates an environment that wildlife, deer come and stay and live. It becomes their home. So one of the most powerful deer attracting varieties that we have is the Dunstan chestnut. And the chestnut is a high carbohydrate nut with quality and high protein for a nut. But chestnuts are almost like a sweet potato of nuts. In fact, they have a really high carbohydrate and have been compared to the nutrients of a brown rice. Chestnut are a species that was wiped out in the early 1900s by chestnut blight. It was one of the most populous trees in all of the eastern United States. So wildlife effectively were stripped of this food source. And when you reintroduce this tree, it's pretty incredible how much deer are attracted to chestnut trees.
Final thoughts, brought to you by Huntworth.
So we here at Chestnut Hill strongly believe that trees are a valuable part of any ecosystem. We strongly believe that adding trees adds so much benefit, from nutrition to cover to pollination, and all parts of your habitat will benefit from having these trees. So putting the time and effort in to research what kind of trees, where you're going to buy these trees from, and then also how you're going to establish these trees is going to be a way that you can really put a lot of value back into the land that you own.